everybody, and Happy New Year! In today's video, I'd like to present to you my top 10 makes of 2025. And 2025 was a really complicated year for me. There were a lot of really difficult moments, but also lots of joy in 2025. And in that context, which I'll explain in a little detail just in a moment, but in that context, I think that it changed the pieces that I reached for and what I wanted to wear and what I prioritized. And so that's going to be reflected in the list that I put together to show you today. And to go over those challenges and joyous moments really quickly. So 2025 was the year where I lost my job. So in June, I found out that I was losing my job for economic reasons. And I found out in a very unfortunate way. So I found a document that was forgotten in the printer that detailed the economic layoff of me and two other colleagues. And so I knew much further in advance than I was supposed to. And because I worked closely with the director where I worked, I asked about it and it was confirmed. I was asked to keep quiet and I wasn't given direction in my work, and I knew that my role, so I was the manager of foreign rights at a publishing company. I knew that the foreign rights department, or my department, everything that I had built and worked for the last 10 years was going to be made redundant and eliminated from the activity of that publishing house. And so I was faced with a redundant job and having to keep this secret, and it was really, really hard. So yeah, the month of June was really difficult. And then in the month of July is when I actually finished working there. I was let go at the end of the month of July, and I learned that I have a medical condition that requires, and it's optional, I don't have to, but a pretty intense treatment. And so I won't get into more detail there because you might have already guessed what that is from previous videos, but it's been really intense, both physically and mentally. I experienced a really intense brain fog in November, for example, and it's not over. So that has been really difficult. But for the great things that happened in 2025, with my severance package, I was able to pay off my American student loan debt, which I have for my bachelor's degree at the University of Connecticut, which is just such a weight off my shoulders. I've been paying it off since I was 21, and I'm 37 now, and it's, oh my goodness. Wow, I feel so lucky to it. I mean, I lost my job, but I feel so fortunate to have been able to pay that off, to have been able to go to university, and I wouldn't be where I am today without that degree, even if it was very expensive and the loans were predatory, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a big difference, and it means that financially I'll have one less worry to deal with this period of my life, and so that's a great thing. And then another great part of 2025 was that because I was laid off and I had a lot more time on my hands, I was able to spend a lot more quality time with friends and family. So not only being able to travel to different places, for example, when I was first laid off, I was able to join my mother-in-law on the northern coast of France where she was renting an apartment for a week. We spent the week just eating delicious seafood dishes that she would make. I would do the cleaning, we'd read together, go for windy walks on the beach, and then watch movies in the evening, and that was lovely. I was able to go to the French Alps over the summer with my husband and spend some quality time with him there. I was able to go to Biarritz as well for the dance festival and visit a friend while I was there, and I fell in love with that city. So that was an amazing experience to be able to go to that dance festival, because if I were working 9 to 5, I definitely would not have been able to go. And so that was great. And then recently I was able to go to spend the holidays with my family in the United States. I've just gotten back. I spent 3 weeks in California, in Southern California with them, and then a week on the East Coast with childhood friends because I grew up on the East Coast. And yeah, I wouldn't have had those moments without being laid off. So I'm very, very grateful for them. And I'm also grateful that now I can organize my time in a way that suits me. I do need to figure out how to survive financially because I did make the decision to, instead of pursuing another job in publishing or looking for another job, to try and develop this channel instead as a freelance work. to accompany this medical treatment that I'm going through at the moment because it's much more flexible, because I have a lot of appointments, for example, to go to, and I don't think that a new employer would be very understanding as to that, especially because there isn't a whole lot of protection for the medical treatment that I'm going through. And so yeah, it's it's a little bit stressful, but I think, yeah, I have more control over my time and where I spend it. I was able to spend a lot of time with a friend who just had a baby in June, for example. I was able to go and spend the day with her and afternoons with her while she was on maternity leave, and that was really, really lovely. Another aspect of 2025 that surprised me and made me feel very grateful is you and the community that has grown around this channel, slowly but surely, and the social links that we've created, even if we don't see each other in person. But I see that you talk to each other in the comments, or you send me such messages of support and kindness in the comments, and especially when I lost my job and shared that here. Your comments really boosted my confidence to pursue working on this channel. Oh, I'm getting teary. And really helped me gain confidence in what I'm doing here, because sometimes it feels like a very narcissistic exercise. I literally sit alone in my house talking to an inanimate object and then filming myself and editing photos and videos of myself all day. So it's, you know, it feels narcissistic, but I'm so glad that what I'm doing is of value to you, and you bring me value as well. So thank you very much. So without further ado, here are my 10 best makes and one big sewing fail that I'm not ashamed to share with you, because I think it's important for me to share my sewing fails as well, because it happens to everyone. And it's fixable, kind of. So here we go. So I've organized this list from great makes to star makes of 2025. And the first two are baby gifts that I made for my friends Rachel and Kristen. So my friend Kristen had her baby Pacha in January of 2025, and I was just able to meet him because they live in Los Angeles just a few weeks ago, and oh, how adorable. What a nice little guy, and so calm. Such wise eyes. And I made for him a baby blanket out of two different kinds of cotton double gauze from Raskol. What I did was I sandwiched between the two fabrics a piece of wadding, and I quilted it before sewing the edges. And it's a self-drafted rectangle of, I think, 65 by 75 centimeters. And so I quilted it with my machine, and then I made my own bias binding from one of the remaining fabrics, and then applied that by hand to the edges after cutting them, because what I noticed with the last baby blanket that I made is that I finished the edges before quilting with my machine, and because double gauze and the batting in between, or wadding in between, is so squishy, it kind of squished outward and the edges were uneven. And so that's what I did. I quilted it before and then cleaned up the edges and then sewed my own bias binding around the edges. And I mention it here because it wasn't the most complicated or time-consuming project that I made this year, but my friend Kristen shared that it is a great, very useful blanket for covering him when he's in his baby carriage or using on the floor as a play mat, things like that. And so I'm really, really happy that it's useful, and that, yeah, it can be something in their everyday use that I made with love. The second gift was for my friend Rachel, who had her baby in June, her baby Lily, and I made for her a few gifts for Lily, but then also a Sew Over It grocery bag for her out of a basket weave cotton from Raskol as well, which is a pretty heavyweight and stiff fabric. And I meant for it to be a diaper bag, but I figured if it wasn't useful for her that way, she could just use it for storage in the closet or something. And she does use it as a diaper bag. I even saw her using it when she came over for Thanksgiving about a month ago, and that it was still useful. And so that makes me so happy that once again I was able to make something practical for daily use for a friend who just had a baby, and with love that she can carry around with her all the time. So if you're looking for a gift to make for a future mother or father, I highly recommend the Sew Over grocery bag. It has lots of really useful pockets, perfect for baby bottles and diapers, and yeah, I'm really happy with that make. The next great make of 2025 is deceptively simple, but one of the best pattern and fabric combinations that I've made in a long time, and something that I wore all summer. And it is the Coralie Bijasson Eolati in this medium weight aqua colored rib knit from Minerva. And it was gifted for another project that I wrote an article on their website for that you can check out if you'd like to. I'll link it below. But I had some leftover fabric, and so I decided to make this tee in the short sleeve version because I didn't have enough fabric for the long sleeve version. And I wanted something light and easy to wear in the summertime. And oh my goodness, this is the perfect fabric for this pattern or for a close fitting tee. It is not too elastic, so not too close fitting, but also it has great stretch recovery. It's not too loose and slinky, but not too tight. It went really well with a lot of the outfits that I was wearing. So easy to wear. And I love the shape of this top as well. I love the balletic neckline of this shirt and then how just elegant and lovely it is. And not too fitted, not too loose, and the little cap sleeves are just lovely and perfect. And yeah, I will definitely be wearing this a lot more in the future, and I will need to make some more, I think, especially in white, for example. Oh, I need to get my hands on more of this fabric. The next make that made it onto this list is perhaps unexpected, but it is the Kip sweater by Creabea or Rebecca Clow, and I knit this in the Ulysse yarn by De Rerum Natura and in the Poivre Blanc colorway, which is white pepper. This was so hard. I think the pattern is not written for beginners. It doesn't walk you through a lot, and it kind of just gives you the pattern repeat that you're supposed to apply to the directions and then the directions, and it doesn't show you how to modify or work with the pattern per size, so you kind of have to figure it out. So for the front and back, the stripes to be matching, I had to figure that out myself. And then with any increasing or decreasing stitches, the pattern doesn't work anymore. So you have to figure out yourself how to fudge it and how to make it work, especially around the sleeve heads where you have to increase a lot. That was really, really hard. And I ended up having to rip back and reknit a lot of the sweater. And in the end, I don't love the shape. I talked about this in, I think, my spring makes video. The sleeves, there are no decreases in the sleeves, so from the elbow down it's the same width as up around the biceps, and it's just too large on me. Some people like that for style, and I could learn to like it, but it gets stuck on a lot of things like doorknobs, or it has gotten hooked on my faucet and I've almost poured cold water down my sleeve a few times. So it's just not very practical. I don't really like really open sleeves like that, and I just haven't had the motivation to rip it back and work in decreases myself, because I think that would be the cleanest way to fix this. So I usually wear it with the sleeves rolled up to 3/4 length or elbow length, and that works for me. And then the other thing is I'm not so sure about the color. I think it's a very warm beige, and colors that suit me best are cooler shades, but I'm really proud of this make and I love the texture, and that's why I've included this on the list, because I persevered, I made it work, and I love the texture. And so I'm proud of this one, and that's why it is on this list. The next make on this list is the Sew House 7 Revel Topper that I made in a very, very lightweight linen and viscose blend back this summer. And this was, I think, a very successful combination of fabric and pattern, because I love the neckline and shape of this pattern, but I find it to be a little bit too oversized for my style or my personal style. And so I decided to make it in a very light and drapey and slightly transparent fabric so that it is still boxy and large, but it leaves underneath the hint of a silhouette, and it's just very light and lovely. And it was a perfect layer this summer to wear when I wanted to cover my shoulders to protect it from the sun or very aggressive air conditioning. And because it's white and neutral color, it goes with a lot of my bottoms that I wear in the summertime. And the texture is really nice too. It has sort of a window hatched weave to it. I was kind of worried about how delicate this fabric was. I didn't know if it would hold up, if the interfacing I used in the collar would be too stiff or not. I used a viscose interfacing, or if it would drape too much, but it's perfect and I love it. The next project is the Sew Over It Ruby skirt that I made in this white and blue striped linen from Fabric Godmother. And this one was such a joy to wear because not only was it nice and voluminous, because I added volume so that it would match my Sew Over It sienna skirt and its volume that I made in a white linen a few years ago. But I just love the colors, and the bounciness of the linen actually makes it just really fun to wear and swirl in and kind of, yeah, it feels floaty. But it holds its volume very well, and it was a lot of fun to wear. I actually made this skirt twice, both in an eyelet white cotton fabric and in this linen fabric, and there's a whole vlog if you'd like to watch that. I'll link it here. And this one actually was my favorite because of the extra volume, but also I think the linen. I love wearing linen, and I love the colors of this linen. They're kind of muted. It's a muted blue, and oh, it's just so floaty. And so I had a lot of fun wearing this one. And even though I've been drawn more and more to practical makes, so sweaters and pants and things that I can wear in the summertime like t-shirts, I still have a soft spot for very feminine and floaty makes like this one. And so I'm really happy with this. And I did actually wear it a few times this summer. I don't have a whole lot of occasions now to wear it, but I did as many times as I could, and I'm excited to wear that again this year. The next make almost made it to the top, only because I wore it so often since it came off my machine this winter, and that is the Seamwork Callan sweater with the bonus sleeves. So the original pattern has wider sleeves that are much wider at the wrist, and I chose to make the bonus sleeves, which are available to members or Seamwork members only, and it is a fitted sleeve, a long sleeve with cuffs. And I honestly thought that I wasn't gonna like this pattern. I thought I need more sweaters. I can't knit them fast enough to the amount that I need now. And wouldn't it be great if I could just make one? And so I chose this marled gray, like a light marled gray wool blend fabric. So it's mostly polyester, but a little bit of wool that makes it super cozy, but also itchy, from Tissu Amer or Stuff Amer. And they are excellent if you're looking for stretch fabrics, especially in natural fibers. So I highly recommend Tissu Amer or Stuff Amer. They're a German fabric company based in Germany, obviously, and I shop online. But anyway, that's beside the point. This fabric is the perfect fabric for this sweater, and it is light and lovely and just stretchy enough, but not too loose and slinky or drapey. It holds its shape without being too bulky, and I love it. I honestly thought that the shape wouldn't suit me because, especially with the lack of shaping around the bust and the extra shoulder seam, I omitted the buttons that go at the shoulders because I really didn't want that built up sort of military shoulder look. I wanted something softer, and the boxy shape weren't gonna suit me very well. But because the sleeves are fitted, it doesn't look too boxy and oversized. And the boxiness is not super oversized either, if that makes any sense. And there are slits at the side seams just down the side a little bit to add a little bit of shaping there and movement, so it's not just a cylinder of fabric around your top. And I love it. I find that it is the perfect layering piece for in between seasons or at home when it's just a little bit chilly. And the bateau or wider neckline I find really flattering and lovely. And I discovered that it goes perfectly over Sew Over It Edie tops. So this is, for example, a Sew Over It Edie top that I made in a cotton knit. And so to keep this sort of itchy wool fabric off of my skin, I always wear a Sew Over It Edie top, usually in a viscose or bamboo knit, something really slinky and soft underneath it. And even though it's long sleeves and the Sew Over It Edie tops are usually 3/4 sleeves, the itchiness doesn't bother my wrists as much as it would my neck. And it's just perfect. And I wore this almost every day, especially when I went to the US back in April, May for a work conference that I was going to in New York City. I wanted to pack light and pack for the spring, blustery spring season on the East Coast, and it was perfect. And I wore this so much. It was definitely a star staple piece in my wardrobe this year, and I absolutely want to make it in more colors, which is foreshadowing for the failed project that I will be talking about a little bit later. But yeah, this was a great surprise as a pattern that I thought I wouldn't like, but I actually love and wear all the time, and I'm excited to make more in 2026. So if you've been counting, we're only on number 8, but the star make of 2025 was so great that I made it 3 times. So it's numbers 8, 9, and 10, and that is the Seamwork Joss pants. These pants, I cannot explain to you how much of a revelation they were to me, because I thought originally that I'd try it out, but it was probably not going to suit me. I really thought that the wide leg look was not for me and that I wouldn't like it. And I love it. I love it so much. I've been wearing it almost exclusively since I first made the first pair of Joss pants. and I'm so glad that I tried it. So the first pair I made in a light sort of celadon green linen from Sacré Coupon that I bought a few years ago, and I hadn't used it because I originally planned on making a Tilly and the Buttons sarin dress with it, but it was too stiff and too itchy to wear close to the skin, especially in parts that would be unlined like the straps. And so I had put it off, put it to the side, thinking, is it more for upholstery? I don't know if I could make it work in a garment. And I decided to go for it because I'd had it in my stash for years and it was a free pattern anyway. Why not just try? And I cannot tell you how much I love this pair of pants. These pants served me so well all summer into the fall. I even missed them while I was in California this Christmas. I thought surely it's not that warm in California around the end of December, beginning of January. And in fact, it was pretty balmy when the sun was out during the day, and I missed these pants a lot. I should have brought them with me. But not only did this fabric work really well with this pattern, as in the stiffness of the linen became bouncy and lovely in these pants, but it is just so practical now for my lifestyle now of being home most of the time and wanting something comfortable. I didn't have a whole lot of clothes that I could wear at home because most of my makes have been concentrated on either occasion wear or something to wear to work, so business casual wear, and I don't have a whole lot of very casual clothes to wear. And so it filled a large gap in my wardrobe, and so I made it 2 more times. I made it this fall in a brown checked wool that I found at Sacré Coupon as well, which is one of my favorite shops, if you haven't noticed already, in Paris, and I talk about it and go visit it in a video that I filmed maybe 2 years ago, that I'll link here if you'd like to check it out, because those are still my favorite fabric shops. My friend actually found this one, and at first I had looked over it because I thought it was too thin of a wool, but then I thought, ooh, maybe these would be perfect for pants. And so I made the Seamwork Joss pants, and it is indeed the perfect sort of wool for these pants because it's nice and drapey, and this pattern is really great with drapey fabrics. And I wear this all the time. It's a very neutral sort of brown, and so it goes with a lot of my tops. And the only difficult part of it was that the checks are very, very small, less than a centimeter apart, but I did notice sewing it up that it did matter if they matched up or not, and it was very noticeable if they did not. And so I spent a lot of time pinning each of the checks all the way down the side seams, the inseams, along the waistline or waistband, and then the pockets. But I'm very, very glad that I did that because I think that they look exquisite, and I was so happy with them. I made another pair for my sister for Christmas, and she just told me recently that she wore them because I finished hemming them for her right before I left, so I didn't get to see her in them before I left, but she sent me a message saying that she loves them and she's been wearing them and they're really comfortable, and so I'm really happy. And then the third version that I made of these pants is in a thicker wool that I found at a fabric market in the north of France in Roubaix that I went to this fall. And it is from the stand of Tissu Papy, which is a fabric shop based in Roubaix, which is just outside of the city of Lille. I love this fabric. It is a medium weight, dark gray, herringbone textured wool, 100% wool. And at first I thought it was too stiff and heavy for pants. It's not stiff enough for a coat, I think, or at least it would be for a light coat or a vest. But I decided to try making these pants with them, and I think it is definitely the max amount of stiffness you should go for with this pattern. And it is a little bit difficult to fit over my hips because I didn't account for the thickness of the fabric when I made it, which took away a good amount of ease from the fit. But I can still fit it over my hips and it's fine, it's comfortable. And because it's in this thicker, cozy wool, I brought it with me to my trip and I was able to wear it in Boston. And especially on the last day in Boston that I was there, it was 19 degrees Fahrenheit and windy, which is cold, and I didn't feel a thing. I was wearing them over wool leggings that I highly recommend as well. I discovered those in 2025 too, and I'll link what I bought below if you'd like to check them out. Those were a game changer as well. But those plus my Seamwork Joss pants in this heavier wool, I didn't feel a thing. It was lovely. I could have stood in the wind, if not for my nose burning, for hours. And so I'm very happy with this version as well. But if you asked me which one is my favorite, I'd have to say it's hard to choose between my brown version and my linen version, but I have to say my linen version just because I wore them so much and they were so versatile, not only for hanging out at home, but also going for hikes in the Alps. I wore them and kept long grasses and nettles off of my legs. I wore them hanging out with friends, going to the beach. It's the perfect light layer to take off and put on easily at the beach. And then also I wore them at Biarritz at the dance festival that I went to in September. They have the most amazing thing. It's called a gigabar, and it's basically a gigantic metallic ballet bar that they install along the promenade of the main beach of Biarritz, so just in front of the ocean. And they have a ballet bar class once a week on, I think, the Sunday or Saturday during the dance festival, the 2-week dance festival. So it happens twice, and I was able to go once. And they have a visiting choreographer who each week a different one teaches the ballet class, and they use all different kinds of music. And because there's a lot of contemporary dance at the festival, they incorporate contemporary movement as well, a lot more rounded movement. Anyway, I was able to go. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it, and also I've been having hip problems the last few years, and so I wasn't sure if my hip would be up to it, but it was, and I decided to go. And because I hadn't brought anything to wear to a bar class, I wore my Seamwork Joss pants and I ran to the beach, and I was able to do the ballet bar, the hour-long ballet bar in Seamwork Joss pants. I was even able to do the grand battement, which are the when you whack your leg up, front, side, and back. In the Seamwork Joss pants, I had enough movement and ease to be able to do it, and I was so happy. So just from that memory alone, and being able to do a ballet bar in Biarritz and on the beach in my Seamwork Joss pants means that they're my favorite. And I cannot wait. I will definitely be making some more Seamwork Joss pants, especially in linen, in a few different colors this year, and I cannot wait. So now for my sewing fail, my big sewing fail, which actually took place really recently if you followed my last video of making projects for the holidays and preparing for my trip to California and the East Coast. I finished packing about 8 hours before I had to go to bed, 7 hours before I had to go to bed. And I am a really stressed traveler. So when I have especially a flight the next day, I get really anxious and jittery. And so to concentrate my jittery and anxious energy, I decided I'm gonna make a Christmas sweater. And I had this sort of like bright berry, pinkish red, maybe it's more like hot pink. It's called berry, like a dark berry color from Tissu Amer. So Stuff Amer, or the same as the marled gray that I made my first Seamwork Callan sweater out of. It's the same fabric, so it's a polyester and wool blend. And I was convinced that this side, let's see if it focuses, was the right side. But as you can see, it's kind of hairy, and there are sometimes like holes in the hair, like gaps. But this side is the right side, which is obvious because you can see the stockinette stitches, like machine stitches, the little V's. And I don't understand how I didn't see that. I sewed the whole thing inside out. Oh my goodness. And I realized it as I was doing the hem. So as you can see, the shoulder seams are inside out, the neckband. And I also sewed it with a lightning stitch on my machine and finished the seams. So there's no way I can unpick that without ruining the fabric. So I think that I'm going to be able to probably cut out another version in the remaining fabric that I have left over, and I can probably reuse a lot of the fabric from this version, for example, to make the facings or the neckband. But yeah, what a mistake. But this just goes to show that I probably shouldn't be cutting out and sewing something in the dark winter light of night, the eve before leaving on a great voyage when I'm very stressed and distracted. But at least it distracted me from my travel jitters and kept me occupied and my mind calm until I realized at 11:30 at night that I had made a giant mistake and went to bed disappointed. But I quickly forgot all about it while I was on my trip. And now I feel hopeful about being able to fix it now that I'm back. So yeah, that will be probably my first project of 2026, fixing this. And it's okay, it's okay. So there you have it. Those are all of my best makes of 2025, as well as one big sewing fail. And I think I can take away two big themes of 2025 in my making habits and how my style has evolved. And the first is that I'm reaching more for practical, so not very exciting makes, but practical and timeless staples versus glamorous and very difficult pieces to wear, because a pencil skirt is difficult to wear, more difficult than a wide leg elasticated waisted pant. But I think that in investing in these pieces that I can wear at home to be comfortable while I'm creating YouTube videos or gardening or spending time with friends is important too. And I feel good in these pieces, I feel elegant in these pieces, even if they aren't extravagant. And I did invest a little bit in glamour this year as well, and I think that was a good idea too. But I think that that's definitely something that I'm going to carry over into 2026 and how I plan my wardrobe going forward. And then the second is that I was very fortunate to be able to work with natural fibers a lot, and fibers that I enjoy working with and wearing, such as cotton and linen and wool. And then I also took risks with pairing different fabrics with different patterns, such as the Sew House 7 Revel Topper and that really, really light linen and viscose blend, or the Seamwork Joss pants in the Celadon green linen. Those were both projects I had no idea if it would work, and I was sort of taking a risk, and they turned out to be some of my favorite makes. And so I think I'll be perhaps more confident going forward taking such risks again. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite piece from 2025 was that you made, or if your style has evolved in some way, some significant way in the past year, and what you'll be wearing more of going forward. I'd love to hear from you, and I get lots of inspiration from the patterns and the clothes that you mention in the comments, so don't hesitate. Stay tuned for the next video, which will be all about my intentions and making plans for 2026, which I hope to get out very soon. If you would like to support this channel, don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And if you would like to leave a tip, you have these YouTube Super Thanks as an option in the button in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or I have linked in the description below my coffee account if you'd like to leave me a tip for a coffee. And any contributions are a big help in sustaining this channel, so thank you. I have linked all of the patterns and fabric shops in the description below. Anything that I talked about in this video is linked below, so don't hesitate to check that out if you have questions. And I hope you are all doing well. I will see you here very, very soon with a new video. Take care, and bye-bye.